everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to our daily clues by Sam here on the channel. Today is Thursday and we have a hard one, so the difficulties are kind of all over the place this week. I love it. I'm really excited for this. I love the harder ones, so you know me. We are gonna play this very excitedly, and if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it is a daily logic puzzle game where there are 20 people on a board, each of which needs to be either a criminal or an innocent, and you gotta figure what every person is to complete the game. The first one is always giving you a clue, and the other ones might as well to help you. And if you want to play too, there is a link in the description to take you to 2 days. If you want to go along with me, then I'm gonna start mine right now and explain my logic as I go so we don't get lost. Let's start. We start with Chris telling us that Sia is one of Wanda's 3 criminal neighbors. So we have Sia being a criminal, and Wanda has 5 people neighboring her, so that means that if 3 of them are criminals, 2 of them are innocent. So let's keep that in mind. Sia now says that Rose is one of 3 innocents in row 4. So now we know one of the innocents, the neighbor Wanda, innocent, right? That is Rose, and there's a second innocent neighboring Wanda that we need to find. And we also know there's 3 innocents total in row 4. So let's think about that, because row 4 has 4 people total, right? 3 of them have to be innocents. 3 of them also neighbor Wanda, but we know that all 3 of them couldn't be innocents, even though row 4 has 3 innocents, because Wanda can only have 2 innocent neighbors. So we know that at most 1 person here is an innocent neighboring Wanda. Where's the third innocent for that row? It has to be Peter. Okay. No need to see his clue anymore. Oh, and now we know that Vance is a criminal because the second and last innocent neighbor for Wanda is here in row 4, so Vince is a criminal. We don't need Chris's clue anymore. Now Peter says that only one of the 4 criminals neighboring Scott is in row 3. Where's Scott? Scott is here, and in row 3 there's only 1 person neighboring him who is a criminal. He has 2 criminals neighboring him in row 5, so that's 2 more that we need to find. The third one is in row 3. That makes Tyler and Wanda opposites. Now, Rose. There are exactly 2 innocents below Gus. Gus is here and Rose is below him. She's an innocent. The other person is Vince, who is already a criminal. There's a third person who needs to be the second and last innocent below Gus. We don't need Rose's clue anymore. Now Vince. Only one of the 3 criminals neighboring Helen is in row 1. So Helen is up here, and she has 1 criminal neighboring her in row 1. That can only be Donald or Evie, and she has 2 more criminals neighboring her, one of which is shared with Scott. Now, what was the clue about? One of the 4 criminals neighboring Scott is in row 3, so either Megan or Nick are a criminal, because there's 1 criminal neighboring Scott in row 3, the other one is an innocent. Now we know about 2 of Helen's criminal neighbors, and she has 3 total, so that makes Gus. Oh, I don't have any more colors for this. Huh? Let's put yellow again because it's far away from these 2, so I think I'm not gonna confuse that. But that's the third and last criminal neighbor for Helen. But new clue do we have? Laura's. Sia has exactly 2 innocent neighbors. Okay, so Sia has 2 innocent neighbors. Out of the 3 she has, 1 of them has got to be in row 4. The second one could only be Wanda, so Wanda is an innocent. That makes Tyler an innocent because we just figured out that. Are they not opposites? Huh? Scott needs 4 criminal neighbors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. I clicked the wrong one, sorry. Tyler is a criminal because of Wanda, and that makes Scott an innocent. Sorry. I wasn't thinking right there, but now, what do we need? Peter's clue or Vince's? Do we? Wanda's clue now tell us tells us that there's an equal number of instances in row 1 and 2. We don't know about how many instances are in those rows. We know there's gonna be one instance here in row 2, and there has to be a second one because there's 2 instances in row 1, but Bobby might be the third one, so we don't know yet. Tyler's clue is new, so row 3 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals. So now we know. Now we know that row 1 doesn't have 2 criminals because row 3 is the only one with 3 criminals. 2 criminals, not 3. Row 3 has 1 criminal here, neighboring Scott. The second one needs to be Janet. And now we also know that row 1 couldn't have a second one, so since he has one here who's either Donald or Evie, that makes Bobby an innocent. And now we also know that row 2 has to have 3 innocents. If one of them is Isaac or Gus, the other 2 people in that row have to be innocents as well to total 3. I'm playing with my non-dominant hand these last few days, so that's why my movement might be a bit weird. Flora now says that an odd number of instances on the edges neighbor Isaac. Isaac has 5 people neighboring him on the edges. Is it 5 or 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people neighboring him on the edges. And odd number of those are instances. Oh, Chris is not neighboring Isaac, so take back what I said. 3 people neighboring Isaac on the edges. One of them is for sure going to be an instant here, who's either Donald or Evie. That makes Nick the third and last person neighboring Isaac on the edges. Not able to be an instant. I'm speaking just as convoluted as the clue makes it feel like. But if Nick were to be an instant, since Isaac has an instant neighboring him on the edge here up top in row 1, that will make 2 instants, and 2 is an even number. So Nick has to be a criminal, which makes Megan an instant. And now we don't need Flora's clue, but Nick says that only one person in row 1 has exactly 2 instant neighbors. Could it be Bobby if Gus is a criminal? That will make Bobby have 2 criminal neighbors. 2 instant neighbors, sorry. Isaac would then be an instant. Now, Chris has more than 2 instants, so that's okay. Donald. Donald has more than 2, so that's okay. Evie couldn't have 2, so that will make Donald an instant as well. Is it talking about row 1? Row 1, one person in row 1 has exactly 2 instant neighbors. So in this configuration, Bobby is that person, right? Chris has more than 2, Donald has more than 2, Evie has more than 2. If Donald is a criminal and Evie is an instant, now Evie has 2 and Bobby has 2. So how do we figure out if Isaac is an instant and Gus, if Isaac is a criminal and Gus is an instant? Now Bobby has 3, Donald has 3, Evie has 1, and Chris has more than 2. So I guess it doesn't work with Isaac being a criminal, because even if I make Donald, if I make Donald an innocent and Evie a criminal, now Evie has 2. So how do I figure this out? I don't need Wanda's clue. I know that row 5 is row 3 is the only row with 2 criminals, so row 5 couldn't have 2 criminals only, which means that since it has 2 now, it needs 1 more, and that person has to be Uma. Now Uma doesn't give us a new clue. Huh? Am I forgetting one of the clues? What am I doing wrong here? Only one person in row 1 has exactly 2 instant neighbors. Maybe I'm not seeing something. So talking about row 1, there's no way for Chris to have 2. So forget about Chris. Is there a way for Donald to have 2? Nope. Because Donald already has Chris and Helen, and he's gonna have a third one who's either Gus or Isaac for sure. Evie. There is a way for Evie to have 2. And that is with Donald being innocent and Isaac a criminal. But what disambiguates Bobby and Evie? What is the clue that I just missed? This talks about Zia and Wanda. And a number of instances on the edges neighbor Isaac. Okay, there's no way to change that. Zia has exactly 2 instant neighbor. We've done that. Only one person in row 1 has exactly 2 instant neighbor. That's what we're trying to figure out. Only one of the 4 criminals neighboring Scott. We've done all of Scott's neighbors. There are exactly 2 instances below Gus. We found them. Row 3 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals. There's no way for either row 1 or 2 to have 2 criminals. One of the 3 criminals neighboring Helen is in row 1. There's no way for Helen not to have 3 criminals neighboring her. There's an equal number of instances in rows 1 and 2. There is gonna be. Rose is one of 3 instances in row 4. Yeah, I'm confused. What am I supposed to be looking at here? If I make Gus a criminal and Isaac an innocent, then that makes Donald an innocent. Is it that Donald is always a criminal? Is always an innocent? Why do we switch the terms? That doesn't make any sense. If Donald is a criminal ever, does it not work? Does it not work with Isaac being an innocent? It doesn't, because now Evie has 2 and Bobby is gonna have 2. And it doesn't work with Isaac being a criminal because now Evie has 1 and Bobby has 3, so nobody has 2. So it doesn't work with Donald being a criminal. That makes Evie a criminal. Okay, that was really hard indeed. Now Evie says that only one person in row 1 has exactly 4 innocent neighbors. And that's Chris? If it weren't Chris, if Chris had 5 innocent neighbors, then who's the person with 4? There isn't one. Donald has 3, Bobby has 3, Evie has 2 obviously, so Chris has to have 4, which makes Isaac an innocent. Good. Good. Again with the yellow. How can I keep being a solve channel, a professional solve channel for Clues by Sam if I keep getting yellows? I'm just kidding, guys. I'm okay with my yellows. My main goal is to share with you guys and maybe help somebody. I think the explaining of the logic is way more valuable than getting it right in the first place. But I am bothered by the yellows. It just happens. It just happens. It happens. It's the nature of the game when you can't finish the whole board before verifying that your logic makes sense. Which would be a way. Like, there's some types of puzzles where you finish the whole board and, like, let's say paper puzzles, Sudokus. You might finish the whole board and be sure that your solution is correct, but it might be because you missed something. So I guess the advantage that online games have or electronic games have is that they allow you to have a third party checking in on your puzzle straight away when you finish. And it isn't the case in Clues by Sam. They check against your answer right away when you give, so they don't allow you to finish the game with an error, which is okay. I would like to have the option to go all the way down with an error and maybe figure further down the line that I made a mistake and it's breaking something else. But to the developer, their own stylistic choices. So I'm just talking about preferences here. And it's also something that if you have the option to maybe enable that and disable that, you could do enough practice with the game telling you when you made a mistake earlier or right away, and then eventually enable the option to just check it at the end, and then you develop your skill even further by checking in later. So it all depends on what you want to, what skill level you want to achieve, and how farther you want to go with your double checking and your logic skills, being able to predict further movements. I'm going too far. I'm digressing. Sorry about that. I'll talk more about that in one other game that I want to play, which is Akari. This is a game that's made by Different Setters, and it's also a daily one, but it has a characteristic where you gotta predict a lot of the consequences of the choices you make, and it's really, really hard for me, at least, to do those predictions. So oftentimes, if the puzzle is not easy, I'm stuck for a long while and kind of guessing what my next move should be, because that's something that I do like in Clues by Sam. The fact that everything is spelled out for you, you have all of the clues telling you exactly where you need to go next. You just gotta put it together and do it. You don't need to be playing chess in your head with what's gonna happen with that place or that person if you make this with this person. And when you have to do that, you have the help of the tags to kind of simulate scenarios. So that's also a feature that the developer allows you to use to your advantage. Like I said, it's all about style and how you want people to experience your game, and it's all up to you. I'm just making suggestions and talking about different game styles. I'm not complaining. This ending ended up with way more talking than I was expecting, so sorry about that, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of everything I said, and I'll see you tomorrow for more Clues by Sam. Bye.